Cool, cool. Do a barrel roll. So this track that I have loaded up right here, I chose to go over this one because I wanted to tackle my performance template that I use. Not like that it's the most novel thing in the world, but there are a good number of people that I know who are using it right now, and I wanted to talk to you specifically about how I use it and kind of why I designed it. And this is a good song to demonstrate that. So kind of the idea behind the performance template altogether was to have seamless transitions between tracks. I know it's hard to see my face. I actually could probably turn a light on for that. Or maybe it doesn't matter. So yeah, the idea is to have seamless transition between tracks, and you have 3 different recording buffers that you're recording those tracks onto. Track 5 records the audio in post after a through machine and a neighbor machine. This gives you access to 4 different effects that you can do to the incoming audio. For me, it's the digitac. So I send digitac audio into inputs A and B here, the digitone, or whatever other machine. I usually use the digitac with this. I haven't found anything comparable to switch it out yet. It has continued to be, yeah, see my face. It continues to be like the best drum machine that I've come across, and it's my favorite. So I do kind of switch out the melodic elements, like I'll grab the Erica Synths bass line, or like an organelle, or even an OP1, or some modular, which is, probably my other go-to besides the Elektron boxes. But anyway, so the idea is that I get this separate stereo mixes of both of these machines, and I have scenes developed to affect them separately. For instance, the sidechain pumping scene here adds reverb in post after the incoming audio of the digitone, so the melodic side of things. So the reverb creates like a big decay of like a mashing of, how reverb affects a bunch of melodic elements. It creates this like beautiful melodic blanket. And when you add sidechain pumping to that, those envelopes create a nice rhythm that just makes you want to move, right? And that's what we like about the sidechain pumping. So that effect only affects this machine, and like I just explained, that's the reason, so that I can sidechain the melodic stuff and leave the drums dry. I also like to, when I'm doing that, or if I'm writing a song that involves that, I will use one of the Digitax tracks here to be another melodic element that I can layer on top of that, like sidechained digitone or A4 or whatever box that you stick next to your drum machine. Okay, so that's the idea behind it's a 3 machine setup. It usually is. If you're going to do a 1 machine setup, then you might want to add some samples or more neighbor machines to your Octatrack, and then you could just have a ton of effects. Yeah. How do you save and recall tracks on a bunch of boxes? Any special naming schemes you use? Yeah, I use one project and I will name them all the same project. So this project is called Dark because I was writing dark techno, or trying to. When I first started the project, however, there's about 30 songs in this now, and they're not techno or anything like that. They're all over the place in terms of what they are. I usually write for a performance or if I want to make a new video. But yeah, so you can name your patterns in your Digitac and in your digitone, and this is a good thing to do because when you save a pattern, if you're doing the Control-All thing, like we have these drums going, and you're like change the pitch on everything using the Control-All function holding track, and say you accidentally do function yes and save that twice, so you save it in your new state that you didn't mean to go back to, you're screwed. You now just did that to every single track that you have. So what do? Well, you can go into your Digitac here, and you can reload from project the whole pattern, the kit data, or the sequence data. But you only get that option. And once you go into this reload project thing, if you leave this menu, it will always return you. Whoops. if you leave this menu like in another way, like this, it will always return you to the reload pattern. So you can do it all the time, very quickly. And it's the smart thing to do if you're going to perform live with your Digitacc. But anyway, that's kind of the idea of around the whole template in general. So I wanted to have basic effects that allowed you to move from one place to another. Unmuting and muting is super fun. Sure, this is a lot more fun. Okay. So on this scene here, oops, gotta stop it here. This is my master clock. On this scene here, it says low pass A and B. So the digitone in this instance won't be low pass. So if you still hear those chords, they're still ringing out like they would, or here's more melodic elements. So they're unaffected, and that's more of a dynamic element. So you would use that in turn to bring a new sound into your Digitacc, right? So we go down here. Maybe let go of your kick, and let's bring something new. When I go back up, now I have a new sample playing. It didn't really matter what sample I picked, so if you screwed up in a live performance, it's not that big of a deal. The idea is to play the song the way, the best that you can, but with this setup and the way you can record things and go back to them, it's okay if you make a mistake. No one's gonna know the difference because it's gonna sound cool anyway. So that's also what's cool about playing with these machines, right? Is creating sequences and then performing those. So to continue with the template, so like the main idea, the whole main thing, the big thing about it for me or with anybody, and I like, not all of these ideas are like my ideas, right? They're picked from here and there and everything I've learned over the years of playing with Elektron boxes. And the main idea for me was I didn't want to have the audience notice when I've gone to a sampled 4-bar loop. They have to not know that I've done that. And so the way I set it up, and this is important, I never talk to anybody about this unless I do one-on-one lessons with people, but if you go into your project menu and go into your system and head down to personalize, you're gonna see this disable yes, no arm and disable stop arm, and I have those totally disabled. I know it's ironic the way you have to say that, but I have it set to disable yes, no arm because I'm doing yes, no stuff all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but I hit yes like 5 times when I hit yes. I hit the stop button like, I don't know why, but I hit it like 10 times. I just have to. It's like bam, 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 bam. And when you do that on the Octatrack, that, unless this is enabled, is going to re-enable your one-shot triggers that you have on there, including your record triggers. So if you recorded something cool, you stopped your Octatrack, you want to save it, maybe use it in another project. If you hit stop twice, you've rearmed your record buffers. Now, if you hit play again, you're going to record over what you just had, and you're going to lose it. So I disabled that. So now I have to be very precise. You have to really choose when you're going to do it. So I recommend this to most people because the Octatrack's hard enough as it is. Like, let's make it deliberate with everything that we do, right? So do that if you want. But okay, so the way that I would record something, this is playing, so I'm not going to talk while I do it, but what's going to happen is I'm going to play this track, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to record the Digitacc, but I'm going to mess with the Digitacc while I'm doing it. I'm just going to do some Control-Alt stuff, just whatever, to change the way it sounds, and we're going to record that. So I hold down track 5 and I hit yes, because this is the new way of arming this now that I've disabled the yes, no arm and the stop arm. So now this is enabled, I can immediately start messing with this, and it's going to start recording. We can look at it in the audio editor here. So here we go. I'm going to switch over to it. I've returned this now to its original state, so it's actually... So here's how it is now. Now we have that recorded version of the Digitacc in the Octatrack. We're not hearing the Digitacc any longer. We're hearing a live version of the Digitone, and we're hearing that screwed up version of the Digitacc. Okay, here we go. And now if I want, I can add or take away some stuff over on the Digitacc. Or I could do something crazy, like I can hold down like Control All here and change all the amp envelopes to just be like tiny little decay envelopes, so it sounds like super minimal techno or something when we go back over. And I can always reload my pattern because I have it saved. So there's nothing to be afraid of here, right? But here we go. So here's that recorded version. This is that weird version. And now we're back to normal. So the idea is that I have 3 of these. One that just does it to the Digitac. Oh, let me answer questions. Does the OT start right away recording when you arm it or when it hits step 1? Well, when you hit start, no, it's when it hits step 1. Yes. If you follow the tutorial or the way that I have, if you're using my template, when you just hit start on your Digitac or whatever your clock is, your Octatrack, however you want it to be, it's going to start recording immediately, but only if you've armed it. So if you don't arm it, it's not going to. Does that make sense? So those triggers are here in the recording setup. These are one-shot triggers. So to make them, you just go down like that, hold function, and you go like that. And now for this to be armed, you have to deliberately arm it. Okay. Those settings are fantastic. Changing them now. I just got a Tampax. That's great. YouTube knows my audience, I guess. Thanks, YouTube. Cool. I'm going to continue with this, right? So, cool. I have no idea how I got an unquantized loop then in my recording buffer. Oh, well, you would have if you designed the template yourself. Hang on a second. You guys need to be able to see my face. Yeah, well, did you using my template? So what's, oh, yeah, well, you may have done something. That's often the case, right? When we're playing on these machines, they become really difficult. Or like it's difficult for you to find where you messed up because you're only looking at one dimension at all times, just the top layer. Okay, so I'm gonna keep carrying on with this. Give us, yeah, you got it. I think this is good enough. I mean, okay. So, like I was saying, be deliberate about recording. Track 5 is it's a 4-bar loop. The loop is set up in the recording setup here. It's record length 64. So it should never record more than 4 bars. At the way I have it set up, right? And if you want to record more than 4 bars, say you want your thing to be an 8-bar looper, you're going to have to change the rate at which the sequencer plays, and you're also going to have to change the master length on your master clock to be 128 steps. And unless you want to make, well, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, so just do that if you want to have longer than 4 bars. 2 DTs would be cool, but this is not that, although it would be great. Okay, so track 6 does the same thing as track 5. It records the digitone, and this is really cool because I have a freeze delay for the Digitac and a freeze delay for the digitone, so I can do. So if I arm that record track, here we go in the editor here, and we can go. Now I can switch over to C and D. Oh, I forgot. We need to switch out. This is my Digitac version of this whole thing. Yes, yes, yes. External Digitac. Remixer. Okay. So I'll show that part again. How are you guys all doing anyway? Great. Weather's been pretty good here in Seattle. Pretty warm, nice day. Actually, found myself needing to use air conditioner again for the first time in quite some time. Okay, so now we're back. So what I would do is I would arm this. Yes. So now here we are with that freeze delayed version, but the Digitac is still doing its own thing. So now I could use this, just this recording as a transition to another track. Could even go to the next one right here if we wanted. So here we go. Right into the next track. Super convenient. You don't have to use these freeze delays if that's not your kind of sound. I know it's not for everybody, but I do recommend getting to know both of these delays, and how to use the freeze delay is really important on the Octatrack, because it's how you develop other cool sounds. Like this Daft Punk effect that I made is using the freeze delay buffer, and that's the only way I could do it that would sound good. Like... This pattern's really loud. So let's go back to this one really quick. So no matter what I do, it grabs. You can see what this scene is doing here. Is here we go. So track 1, it is filtering out. Get out of here. That was the buffer of the freeze delay still going. Okay. So on track 1, it's filtering out some of the high end with some resonance on it. And then before it goes into the neighbor machine, the freeze delay is initiated. And that's by bringing the send to 0. I'm not going to go over how to do the freeze delay, but there are tutorials on it. I have one on it. Anybody's is good enough. Go check it out. But so anyway, I'm initiating the freeze delay, and then that's going into the neighbor track here, where I have some chorus, and it's just doing a 25% mix, or whatever 24 would equal. And I have it widening out a little bit. And I also have it running into a lo-fi where I'm doing a little bit of amplitude modulation. And it's barely any. It's just a little bit to make it feel like it's got a little bit of tape warble on it. And then what's happening is in the master track, so it's already filtered here, like quite a bit. It's filtered a lot. So it's kind of like this bandpassy sound. Once it gets over here, I'm sorry. When it gets over to the master track, I built kind of like a bandpass out of the filter. I could have used the DJ filter in here, and it probably would have done it just as well, but I use this filter so much that it was just faster. And then I filtered out to like a bandpass sound. The reason why I went with the bandpass in post is because there's pops and clicks that you get with the delay when you're using it as a freeze delay. So once it goes down to 0, it initiates the buffer. You have to decide the buffer within your delay here. So the scene brings it all the way to 128. And so this repeat, that's the biggest repeat you're ever going to get. It will never be bigger than that using the freeze delay, but it's good enough to transition. Yeah, so I use the filter in track 8 as it's on its way out, the very last post insert effect, as you would, I guess master effect since it's on track 8, to filter everything out and bandpass it, but also to carve off the pops and clicks. Question about the scenes that switch between live audio and record buffers. Does it slowly fade in and out the audio sources, or is it on and off? So what's happening is it's slowly fading. The audio out from the through machine is being slowly muted. So like right here at 50%, you're hearing 50% a recorded version and 50% a live version. And it sounds very phasey. It doesn't sound good. You don't want to hang out there. You want to just transition. You want to go over. You're trying to kind of like, I mean, when you're fading out of other effects, do whatever you want. Like a slow fade is beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. But when you're fading between a recorded version of audio and a live version of audio, you want to do that quickly. If they're playing the exact same thing. If they're playing two different things, like two different tracks, it's not such a big deal. But if they're playing the exact same thing, you're going to have this like phasey thing. It's going to sound hollow. It's going to sound plasticky. It's going to sound bad. So you don't want to hang out there. You just go straight over and come back over. If that answers your question. Okay, so so like building on this further, these record buffers are really the whole idea behind everything. And I found in time, as I've been using this template and like working on it more and more for the last I don't know, year and a half, I'd say. I've been using this, no, longer than that, 2 years, I guess over 2 years. I've been using this template, and at first it only had a few effects that I designed. I mean, everybody designs effects, so whatever. But now it has these record scenes, and I love these effects that I've put into this template so much that they've stayed in my template. And I actually have a spot, or I will have a spot here for a new effect. I haven't thought of one yet. I don't know, but the idea is to record onto track 5, record onto track 6 separately. Then, in the end, you can do another recording with track 7, and then you have like a whole new song. So, for instance, we could actually, here we go. Let's start the record buffer on track 5. So now we can go over to that recording. So that's what I played here, including the lo-fi effect, because things that affect the sounds of the digitac, are on the digitac's inputs specifically. So these effects work no matter what, no matter where I am. Well, I mean, they don't work when I'm in the recorded version. You're just listening to something you pre-recorded, so to speak. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So now we have a recorded version of what I just did on track 5, and it's playing live. Okay, so we don't necessarily need to do this again to make something weird with track 6, but we could just... Okay, so watch... Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. What you will do, you have to make a choice. When you do this, you record track 5, the digitac, or you record track 6. You can't do them both at the same time, unless you do this. So now we have the recorded version of track 5 playing, and I'm going to arm track 7, which is a master version of all these things. And now I'm going to mess with the digitone. Alright, so I switched over to here. This is the recorded version now of this recorded version, playing with this live version with these effects also. Now, if I want, now I have this weird kind of like mash that's happening. We could do it again. Or we could do something like, well, really what you'd want to do, when you get here, you don't want to push it too much further, but you can go into like one of these effects here, like this tape stop effect I designed, and then this 1/5 down is a 1/5 modulation. And if you time it, so it sounds great. Like it feels like this was expected, and it works. So while this is happening, this effect is really good for a transition into a new song. So let's pick another pattern, let our 4 bars run, and we'll go over to it. We're in a new song now, and we can transition any way we want. But I'm just gonna go. Right? And we got to choose when we went over. I could even stay. Here we are, back in the old song. And now if I wanted, I could freeze delay out of it. Do something like that. Or we could just go into like a low pass. So the idea is to give you lots of options that allows you to improvise. I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at the camera, I'm trying to do both. Cool. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Let me see, what was I working on? Yeah, it is this one. Okay. How's everybody doing? Does anybody have any questions before I stop talking about that? I'm gonna go over some more examples of using it right now. I'm just gonna do it while playing a song. Hey, what up? Practice, my friend. I play a lot. Okay, I'm gonna do this little song. No, I'm not gonna have that on. I learned my lesson. Okay. So here's no, I just haven't shaved. It's not back. So I'm gonna use the template. I'm not gonna use every single effect for the song because it just doesn't work. Not all the effects are always gonna be appropriate for a song. Like, we don't always use chorus. We don't always use phaser, right? We don't always use distortion. Some people always use distortion. Alright, so how I started off is I used the low-pass filter. This is a low-pass filter that affects both machines. However, in this song that I'm playing, and let me know if you can't hear me over the music. Hey, what's up, Doug? This low-pass filter affects all machines, though I am just using the Digitech. Right, so now I'm in the low-pass filter here. I could have done that with the high-pass. Doesn't feel as good. I don't deal with it, to answer your question, Doug. That is not an issue for me. I have not really needed direct jump. That's something that I would prefer to have on the Octatrack more than I would on these machines, the way I use them. But if I want a machine with direct jump, I just use the analog devices because they are very powerful. And they require, I think I wouldn't even want to use them without the Octatrack at this point because they don't have as many saves, like places to save your ass, as the Digitech and the Digitone do. Right, so like I was saying, we could high pass this. We could use the lo-fi effect. I wouldn't use it here. I like to use that with snares a lot. We'll get to that. But I think it makes the most sense to use the low pass. I could use the low pass for just the Digitech. Take my kick out, bring in my element here, my little percussive element, and my snares, and do a snare roll up. And that's the idea. That low pass allowed me to do that snare roll, right? That would have sounded like not very cool. It wouldn't have sounded good if I had just blasted it like it was like this. Literally playing this, and I just go. It's not very dynamic. I guess it sounds okay, but it's not great. So that's where the Octatrack comes in handy. You can't do that on your Digitone or Digitech, or really on your Digitone very easily. You could if you get some external controllers. Yeah. So I actually think it sounds better on this version of the low-pass filter for doing the snare roll. Okay, so now I'm at this point. I'm going to use this little Daft Punk effect to transition into bringing in some hats. Yes, you would have to program the roll to be more musical. Definitely. How to get your kicks? Sample kicks don't sound that good in my mix. Should I edit them before sending them? Have you ever felt that? Well, I mean, yeah, for sure. I felt that a million times. I just find a better kick. I mean, that's usually my answer for that. There's some stuff you should do if you're in your Digitech. You know, get familiar with your overdrive and use your overdrive. Get familiar with your envelopes and use your envelopes. Sometimes maybe your kick has got too much oomph. Maybe you just want like more of a tick of a sound of a kick, or, you know, kind of like that, what is it, like gum being pulled off plastic. It's like, I don't know. I love that sound. which you can get really easily from the Bacillus Iteritatis if you're into modular. Also, try changing the pitch, seeing where the pitch is at, but mostly just find a better kick, dude. That's what I would do. The snare roll I got to trigger using the trig fill condition. Yes, you're exactly right. Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna keep playing the song. Which I already used my little Daft Punk effect, which is the bandpass and the quarter note rolls here. Quarter note loops. And so I could bring in another element here. I'm gonna use my voice. And somebody was asking about how I did the stuttering on the voice, and it's like this. Here's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that, but that's moving quite slowly. That's because I have 32 steps of the vocal sample being triggered, and I have the LFO set to the sample start with a ramp wave going in trig mode. The BPM's at 2, speed is at 6.92, whatever, you could be anywhere in that area. You have to tweak it to taste, and my depth is at 16, and that's how it makes this sound. It's all based on your tempo of your track, though, so this one works really well at 127 BPM. And also, on the very first trigger, I have LFO trigger set to on, and then I turn them off in the default settings so that it doesn't affect any of the others. So just the very first one starts the LFO ramp cycle. That's the idea. And that ramp just keeps going, keeps being re-triggered by these steps, and it makes that time stretch effect. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's how I do that. Somebody asked about. So here we are. Still jamming our little techno track here. I might use like the chorus effect. I talked about this stuff already in my last stream. With those effects particularly, because that's when I was designing them that week. And those are some of the effects that are in the template if you're using this template. Or if you're going to build your own template. So like this is a really great idea. Make templates in your Octatrack. The way this one works, and I just want people to know this too, is that the way this template works is when I move patterns here, the Octatrack is not going to move patterns. It doesn't have patterns. These patterns I'm using these patterns as templates themselves. So these are like subsets of templates, and I just go to a different pattern if I want to have new versions of the sequence, basically. And if you also set your tracks to be plays free, you can do some really wacky stuff. Like, you can really lose your mind. But also, you're going to have a really tough time. Like, you're going to have to really be paying attention, okay? Lots of paying attention when it comes to these machines. LFOs love LFOs life. This track is not using the digitone, no. Fallen in love with your AR Mark II. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Is it worth to get the Digitac along with the Digitone when you also have an... Yes. The answer is yes. These machines are not... They don't replace each other. All of them don't replace each other. That's how I feel about the Elektron line. That's how they, intelligently designed them. The Digitac doesn't replace the Octatrack, and the Octatrack doesn't replace the Digitac. They don't do the same things. They don't sound the same. You can't substitute one for the other. You can choose to use one more than the other because maybe it draws you in, but they're not the same. The Digitone is nothing like the Analog 4 in any way. The Rhythm is nothing like the Digitac other than they added sampling to it. It's a synthesizer, an analog synthesizer. This sounds great, and it's also got a pretty high learning curve. I just got saved. I was in a political thread. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Glad I got you out of there. OT not switching patterns makes sense. I'm guessing that's why the DT is the clock. That's right. That's exactly why. But I don't have to do it that way. I could literally just, just copy this pattern and paste it to the next one. And this could be the pattern master. And that would make a lot of sense for somebody. They totally could do that. I'm just used to having the machines arranged in this fashion so that I'm reaching over them. I keep them like pretty close. I'm like standing right up against the wall here. And I keep them really close to me. So this just doesn't feel like very far. It's not a big deal. Aesthetically, I would like them to be next to each other. That would look really nice. But this is just the way it works. And so it makes more sense for me to have my start and stop right here, where I'm doing most of the music, so to speak. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It just makes sense to have the drum machine keep the beat. Totally. I sold it. I was going to get the Mark II, but traded a Digitone instead, and I'm sticking with it. Right on. Yeah, well, they're both rad, for sure. I use the Digitone more than my Analog 4, partly because it has pattern mutes, and that's just saves me so much thinking that I'm able to perform a lot easier. I'm able to make more dynamic performances faster on the Digitone, let's put it that way. Even though I like analog sounds more than FM sounds. I also get full chords on this and melodic elements and bass lines, whereas on the Analog 4 you are limited to, you're gonna use paraphonic voices if you want chords. You're just going to, unless you're gonna use up all of your voices on just a chord, and that seems like a waste when you have that amazing Elektron sequencer. Those overbridge and USB MIDI will never happen. That's what I think. So yeah, would it benefit it? Yeah, it would be awesome. But will it happen? Probably not. Yes, the Digitone's ARPs are awesome. Is the Digitech your master clock? I've heard the Digitech can have tempo changes per scenes. That's right. The Digitech is my master clock. The Octatrack can also do tempo per pattern, which I believe is what you meant. They all can now. All the Elektron devices can do it now. So it doesn't have to be the master clock. Do whatever you want. Whatever makes your heart feel full. Pursue that. Okay. So, I mean, the rest of the effects are pretty basic. They are what they are. The idea behind the template altogether was for us to be able to record versions of the Digitech, record versions of the Digitone, and then ultimately record a version of the entire mix, mess with them, record that if you want. And it just, everything is built to transition you between part to part, using filters to bring out frequencies so that you can add in something that's hidden behind those frequencies. Like low pass filtering your mix and then turning on a hi-hat works really well because that low pass is going to remove your hi-hat. So as you're bringing your low pass frequencies, as you're bringing your high frequencies back in from your low pass filter, it's going to reveal your hi-hat in a very smooth way. So you just think about that when you're making music. How do you want your to use your effects to transition between adding new elements? And that's what I found. Like, that's mostly what sounds great in music, right? There's risers, and it usually brings you to a new element in the song, either removing elements or adding new elements. So you need to use effects to do that yourself. That's hard to do on just the Digitech, right? So the Digitech, we could try to do that. So we'll save a temporary state, and I could go into my amp page here. Maybe I'll go into my filter. I'll select a track that's using the low pass filter. Maybe I'll bring up the reverb a bit. So now I'm trying to use this as a way to transition to the next pattern. Okay, here we go. Right. So you can do things like that, or you can just bring elements out, or you can go into your mixer, and bring things down one by one, start bringing new stuff in. With the Octatrack, you have way more options. It just blows those options out of the water, and the options are way better. They're way better options. They're like, if you run this into your Octatrack or any DJ mixer for that matter, but the Octatrack is going to do it even better than that because you get to build the effects and design how they work. It's way better than a DJ mixer, and it's totally an instrument, and it enables you to play better with these machines, with any of the machines that you own. This is by far, if you want to play with all your stuff and like really feel in control, using your Octatrack, using your audio in, your through machines, your neighbor tracks, your record buffers, and setting up transitions like that, you're going to get the most out of your machine. And you're also going to have the best sounding performances, in my opinion. You're going to sound like, everything's going to sound intentional. You're going to look like you know what you're doing. You're going to feel like you know what you're doing because you're going to have these moments where you get to look it over, right? When you record a master version of your track, right? We'll record this. And then I'll switch over to this recorded version right now. Okay, here we go. I'm free now. Do whatever I want. I can mute stuff. I can start playing on my digitone. It's not even a part of the song. You know, I could just start putting in a random garbage sequence. I have no idea what notes I should be playing, but there we go. Bad notes. We know that. We don't want to do that. But you get the idea. Like, I had all that time, and that recording has dynamics to it because the writing has some dynamic elements to it as well. Yeah. Full circle, what's up? Fuck, I hate watching. Why? Why do you hate watching my videos, Brian? Don't you have an Octatrack? Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm designing a new track, I try and come up with a new effect for those tracks, and I'm using the Octatrack to work with these devices and make my songs feel way more dynamic. Let's use one that uses the sidechain pumping because I love the way the sidechain pumping sounds. I gotta find something. Where did I put that song? Oh, no wonder. That sounds stupid. Oh, here we go. I need to record a new video of this one too. Okay, so this is using all three machines, and hold on, let me. What is the S? What is the secret to that? Could that A4 do it? Yeah, you could do it with the A4. Can you pipe the unrecorded version of what's happening over the headphone monitor out to the Octa? Out? Can you pipe the unrecorded version of what's happening over to the headphone monitor out in the Octa to preview Yes. Yes. Yeah. If you watch, sorry, that was hard for me to read. If you do the tutorial video that I have, the Remixer tutorial, if you follow that to a T, the way it starts, you just hold Q and you hit your inputs here, right? So now these inputs, these raw inputs. Okay, you don't have to do that either. So you could, instead of doing the raw inputs, which is what I would do, you could hold Q and do your two neighbor machines, and you'll hear that in your headphones. So you can play live, enjoy it with everybody, put your headphones on, listen to something you're preparing. Yes, that is the idea, and that's one of the first things that I show you in the tutorial for it. But I'd never use it. I tried to. I don't know about you. I have played some shows and played live in clubs with this gear, and maybe it's my headphones. I don't really know, but I cannot hear. It's so loud. You can't hear a monitored version unless you're like jamming those headphones into your ears. I don't know. I can't. Maybe I just need different headphones. So I just hope that I do it right. Yeah. Yeah, the Q outs is really good. Do you ever use pre-sliced record buffers and slide between slices with the scene? Yeah, totally. I do. In fact, that was part of the second pattern on here. I believe these recorded versions. Here's a random version of it, or it's supposed to be. Yes, I do that. So like when you do that, you have to be wary of pops and clicks when those samples are triggered. Because I'm doing new recordings all the time, and sometimes the zero crossings don't align, even though the Octatrack would really like them to. So for what I do, it's best that I don't do that. But if you wanted to, that's not a big deal at all. And it's not even hard. It's very simple. And once you have a good template pattern down, you just copy it over and go to the next one and go in there and mess with your record slices. And it should sound pretty good. You just have the chance that it's going to have pops and clicks. Yeah, thank you. Good call on the zero crossings. Okay, I'm going to play this for a sec. So I'm going to use the sidechain pumping effect to use. That's why this is labeled pump here. So what's happening is there's an LFO on track 4. This is the neighbor track of the digitone. This might be too loud. I'm not really sure. And the LFO is set up like this, right? It's being sent to the filter width. It's an inverted exponential wave at a 4x multiplier. The trigger is set to 1, so I have to have a trigger down for this LFO to trigger. I'm not triggering samples, so I'm using a different kind of trigger, and I'll show you how you do that. The speed is set to 32, and the depth is at 0 at the moment. So what I can do is I can manually dial in the pump. So here we go. Or I can use this scene that pumps, and it's a bit wider because it adds reverb to it. You can hear the reverb kind of fade away. But what's kind of cool, I usually use this because I don't always want the reverb. And now I can add like a melodic element over that. That's not being sidechained. It sounds so good. It's so hard to grasp that it's an Elektron box doing this live. It just sounds great, don't you think? I think it's a great sidechain. And when I was first messing around with sidechaining on the Octatrack, or trying to build this effect, because I just want to do all the effects that I hear in the music I like, right? I like the sidechain pumping sound, and I just don't want to do them on my computer, you know? I am a Bitwig certified trainer. I'm ashamed to say that because I do love Bitwig, but I'm ashamed to say it because I spend so much time on hardware and less time in my DAW. I'm just super into this, and but I wanted to have the same kind of effects that I have in Bitwig out here, and so far this is the only box that can do it. Or modular. Do whatever you want in modular though. Sanctuary. I remembered a discussion about a band, and the keyboard player talked about wanting to... Hold on, I want to know about this. Play the famous intro into Riding the Storm Out? Never been any reason. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Do you need a Moog? I don't know. Sorry, Doug. Don't have to answer that one. Moogs are great. Do you need a Moog? I don't know. I use a Prophet 5. That's my big beast, right? If I need a nice bass line, Prophet 5. If I need a perfect chord that oozes, you know, cyberpunk or whatever you want it to be, Prophet 5. Yeah, the overdrive helps a lot. It really does. Lost my Mac the other day, which has made me turn to your vids and just go to Octatrack as my main mixer. Totally. Yeah. So, like, not just that. These headphones. Let me show you something. If I can, no, I can't show it to you. So it's too far out of reach. I have a little box that a friend of mine, Jesse, in the Discord, the EZBOT Discord, recommended. It's this little box, and it's a 3-to-1 or it's a 1-to-3, and so I have a merger box of like all this stuff that I can bring into either the Octatrack or into the Digitac. Mostly, I'm bringing it into the Digitac, so I'm doing most of my personal sampling in the Digitac, and I do all my looping and stuff in the Octatrack because the kind of music that I make, this just lends to it better. Yeah, the digitone doesn't. I'd like to address that because the digitone is awesome. It doesn't always have to sound like an FM synth. In fact, like yes, that bass line sounds nice, but actually, I don't want to mess with these sounds. I'm just gonna go over here real quick. I'm gonna go into one of my sounds one of my presets. Oh, not there. Okay, easy square. That does sound pretty FM, but this one doesn't. Like, listen to this. It's got a lot of reverb on it for some reason. That does not sound very FM-y. Sounds great. So I just kind of made these like emulations that sound as close to a sawtooth, as close to a square wave. Maybe a square wave with some like sync in it. That's easy. That's an easier sound to make on the digitone because FM's insane. But yeah, once you make some sounds it's weird to go into your digitone and make some presets that sound like analog devices, but it will just open up what you can make, right? You don't want everything to sound like FM if the digitone is going to be your main synthesizer. You kind of do want it to sound like as closer to basic waveform kind of synthesizers. So I do recommend going in there and just finding out ways to tweak it so it sounds like just a simple waveform, and then play with the filter and the overdrive, and that's going to really give you more of an analog sound. Wasted an hour tonight. Couldn't network my Digitac with Digitone and Microfreak. Oh. Why not? That should have worked. That's a bummer, dude. Not a fan of FM drum kits, but if you're using percussion and techno style, they are great for evolving. Yeah, totally. Yeah, they are. You're right. And I don't really use the FM drums all that often. Like Ivar Treaty does, just kills it on the digitone with his percussive stuff. It's bananas. You should check him out if you haven't. Answer some more stuff. But how do you go about recording all your mixes without using a DAW? Or do you final recording on DAW? Okay, I do the final recording on a DAW. I do not multi-track this music. I multi-track using acoustic instruments. I sing and play guitar, and that's been like what I've done the most. I have the most experience being a singer and a guitar player, but have most recently been doing this for the last several years now. Like, obviously a lot if I'm streaming about it on YouTube and Twitch right now. But so I multi-track that kind of music because it lends itself to multi-tracking really well. This stuff, this live performance stuff, this is what I am about. This like speaks to me, on a nearly spiritual level. I want it to sound live. I want it to feel good live. I want to be in control of it live. And when I record a track, I perform it until it's perfect. And sometimes I can't get it perfect, and I just have to be okay with that. Sometimes I have to be like, you got all the way to minute 4. You did every transition that you wanted to do the way you wanted to do it. You screwed up a little bit on minute 4. The transition didn't sound perfectly smooth. You're just gonna have to deal with it because you want to do it a million more times. No, but I love that. So when I get a perfect performance, it just is the way it is. I just record it well. I know my machines well. I use the compressor as a limiter on my Digitac. I use the filters wherever I need to. I'll use the filter on all the sounds in the Digitac. I use the filter on every sound in the Digitone, the second filter here, where you can take out the bass and the width here, or the high frequencies and low frequencies. I mix on the machines. I don't mix in the Octatrack. And then everything is actually run into the analog heat, always. And it always has been, as far as I can remember. I've had the analog heat since I got the Octatrack, and that was the first thing I got years back. Not this Octatrack, obviously. This is like my 4th Octatrack. But Yeah, and that's how I do it. And there's a little bit of mixing happening on the on the analog heat, and that is adding a little bit of bass and adding a little bit of treble, just because it sounds good on there. The way the circuits do on the analog heat just sounds nice. After that, it goes into my computer through an RME Fireface. So I have like my bottleneck is the Octatrack. So after the Octatrack, everything is perfect from the Octatrack. Whatever the Octatrack sounds like, it's going to sound great in the end because everything after the Octatrack is pretty high-end stuff. RME makes great gear, so I just wanted to be able to capture it the best I possibly could. Once it's in the computer, I will record everything into Bitwig Studio because that's my DAW of choice, and then I will use Ozone 8 currently. I haven't upgraded to 9. I'll use Ozone 8 and I will start mastering from there. And then that's it. If I am going to release it on a project, I will send an unmastered version over to a friend of mine who does mixing and mastering. He usually does my mixing, or not mixing, but he usually does my mastering because I do my mixing in these boxes, obviously. So nobody can mix it for me. And then he'll do it, and I usually like it better when he does it because he's good at doing that, at mastering, because it's a art, right? It's a crazy art. Are you sequencing the digitone from the DT? No, I would never. That's sacrilege to me. Yeah, don't. I will never do that. I just couldn't. There's the only trick that's worth sequencing, so to speak, from the Digitac to the Digitone is going to be letting tracks 1 or 9 through 12 also mute the tracks for you on the Digitone. And that's only if you're going to use global mutes. And which I don't. So there's no reason I would ever do that. I want to sequence. If you're not going to use the sequencer on your Digitone, don't use a Digitone. Like that's, except for that it is multi-timbral. So yeah, okay, there's an argument for the Digitone back there again. But you could use a Virus or something that has even more sounds than the Digitone. Use the Digitone because you love Elektron sequencers. And you like the FM engine, which is great. It sounds amazing. I'm not talking smack about it, but definitely use that sequencer. You're not gonna get the most out of your music without it. Can the slider be used with the through track on the OT, or any workarounds for using the slider with a live signal? I'm not sure what you mean. So the slider is working with a live signal. That's exactly how it works. That's what this is. That's the live signal, and I'm low pass filtering it. That must not be what you mean. I'm sorry if I can't understand. Do I plan to play live? Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan. That's always the plan. I'm glad the MC707 has a velocity sensitive pads. About the only thing I think your rig is missing. Well, I could use the Rhythm, right? And I could plug an MPD 218 into the system and get the best velocity sensitive you could possibly get. I do recommend the MPD 218s or any of the MPT line by Akai if you want really nice sensitive pads. So I have one of those. So I don't feel like I'm missing that, honestly. I dial in the velocity or the volume or whatever it's shaping, but on the Digitone it shapes whatever you want it to. But on the Digitac it shapes the volume, and that's it. So I just dial that in the sequence. Why did they not make that? I don't know. I wish I knew, Rob. I do not hate the noise floor. Mine sounds great. 1000% going to get Matt booked in San Francisco. Yeah. Get me down to San Francisco. That sounds awesome. I would love to go. Why are you on your 4th Octatrack? What made you spiritually connect with it? Great question. Wow. That's like that's deep question, my friend. I'm on my 4th Octatrack because I had 2 broken ones. Yeah, I had 2 broken ones. That's why. I had 2 broken ones, and so my 3rd one wasn't broken. I've sold my 3rd one to a friend of mine who hopefully is doing great on the Octatrack, and hopefully I get to see play live soon. And then so when I knew this was, I work at a synthesizer shop. Okay, so like sometimes you know that something cool is gonna happen, and so I saved some money up, and I bought one of these, and before they were gone, and so I got kind of lucky there. That's why I had 4 Octatracks. What it made me connect with them is at that moment was that I made this. Actually, I've thought about this a lot. So I was making this track. I was trying to learn how to just be a better live performer with electronic music on these devices. And I was doing all this stuff on the Digitac and the Digitone, and I was just playing with things like let's turn the snare on. So I'd play with things like forward looping, or just like looping stuff and changing the lengths. So I was just playing around with effects like that and trying to do them live, and it sounded cool. They took a really long time to execute. I was moving back and forth through tracks, so you had to be holding track because I had the mutes playing, so I didn't want to unmute stuff, but I wanted to go in and play with other sounds while it was muted. I wanted to change how it was affected, and I was doing that, and a track that I considered to be like a 5-minute song was taking me about 11 or 12 minutes to perform, and it's like there's just no reason for you to hear the same shit over and over, or the same stuff over and over again for that long. Exactly the same. So I was like, I'd go in and I would, change the decay envelopes on hats, or open the filter up on the bass line, or whatever. And I would do the same thing on the Digitone. And I was having a really, really good time doing that. I found like, this is what's fun about doing this stuff live, is messing with my patterns. And because you can save their states and save the patterns, I was able to screw with them as much as I wanted and always return to a safe spot. So I was in love with that. And so that sold me, and I was going really hard on it. But the manipulations I was able to do were just not good enough. Like, they're cool. They are cool. You can do some really awesome stuff without using an external mixer or an Octatrack. But once you get this going, it's just better. It's just so much better. The kind of things that you can do, you have access to an actual master low pass, high pass filter. You have access to cool effects like the sidechain pumping. You can't do that well on the Digitac. You definitely can't do that. Yeah, you need something to do it for you. You have to use like the Roland, what is it, MX1? I think it has a nice one. So there was just so anyway, sorry, I got distracted there. I was hearing something weird. It was just not giving me enough power over the effects, and it wasn't letting my transitions seem like I was playing for you on... I wanted people to think like, oh, that guy's using his laptop, and then to see on the screen, because most of the shows I play, you can see what I'm doing, like my hands. I mean, definitely online, you always can see what I'm doing. I don't hide anything from the viewer. I want them to see what I'm doing, because that's kind of the point. Like, that's the bravado of playing with these devices and getting good at them, is like, they look complex. There's a lot of buttons and knobs, and so I want people to see like there's some thought going into the process here. And the Octatrack enabled me to just have those effects that I was missing from my DAW, basically, or from a nice produced track. You're also on your 4th Octatrack? Right on. 4th Octatrack Club. I bet there's a lot of us. A Memoir by EZBOT. What up, Chris? How are you? Yeah, I'm going to play this for a second. There's some people hanging out. I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'll do a little bit of playing. My mom's texting me. Hi, Mom. Okay. Okay, I have to remember how I played this song. right now. Record it again like this. This sounds kind of cool. Maybe I'll even turn up the reverb on it. Okay, I'm gonna switch over to that recorded version. Now I can kind of hang out here. I can set some stuff up. I'll bring this sound in here. Go over here. Got some more elements now. Turn off the sidechain pumping here. That sounds like a piano just went bam. into a new song. So that was me. I was trying to utilize all of the template that's available. There's another effect on here as well that it takes a... Let's just turn it on here. Oh yeah, there's this. Which sounds nuts. But it's, so basically, it'll do a recorded version of the digitac, and then brings the rate to half, and then adds a delay on top of that. So I'll show you what it sounds like. So it's still in time with the music. I have to agree with you, Isaac. Chink is the king. And I wish I could see him play live. That would make me so happy. The transition king. Oh yeah, you're welcome for sharing. Crossfader is worth the price of admission. Yes, it is. It is not, I'll tell you what, it's not easy. Build yourself this style of template. There are other ways of building this out. You only really need to have like the best effect of this, the most powerful effect of using your Octatrack to be able to move from song to song seamlessly and be able to give yourself a break to set things up for like profound transitions, is just creating a flex track that records the master, and then creating a scene that transitions between your live audio and your recorded version. You don't have to use external audio. You just create this track, have it listen to your master track, and then use 6 tracks in your Octatrack. 6 tracks on the Octatrack is a lot. It seems like not a lot, but the Octatrack is meant to play loops, and it's meant to play a ton of one-shots. It has that capability. It has keyboard layouts for it. It has the slots layout for tons of one-shots, and it has the slices layout for, for cutting up loops. And so that's where it excels. But this excels at playing one-shots like just a sequencer playing one-shots for you, like you would do in Ableton or something. It just has that kind of that feel to it. It's quick. It's a bit faster. So you could build a template like that where you're using these tracks as loops. Like this could be a couple of drums. This could be hats. This could be tops, bass line, vocals, and melodic stuff. And then you just go through your patterns, changing your patterns using your effects to make those things stand out or become more apparent as you're moving through the song, going from fader A to fader B. And then you can still use track 7, recording your master, to do those transitions so that you have the smooth transition. It's literally the same thing I'm doing, but instead of using machines, you're using your tracks on your Octatrack. So there's no reason why you can't just have just the Octatrack and kick ass. I just think you can kick even more ass if you use even more machines. I don't write songs to answer your question, Nicholas, how do you approach the trinity for making a song versus prepping? I prep. My songs are for performing, because everything I make I put on YouTube, right? And I do everything in one take, right? Multiple takes, just one take that gets saved and uploaded. But those are not the first time I play the song. When I record something on there, and if it sounds good, it's probably like the 15th time I tried. I've gotten pretty lucky at some live shows though, where it's been like, wow, that was the best time I did it, and it was at the show. What sort of practice schedule would you recommend? I would recommend, you want to get good, sign up to play music for people, or offer to try and teach somebody how to use these devices. It forces you to learn them because they're going to ask you questions, so you need to be able to answer all the questions, right? But also, if you just sign up to, like, someone's like, hey, we're going to do a live stream, say yes. Just do it. And play. And if you suck live. It's still better than not playing. And you're going to get so much better and build a lot of confidence. And that's how you get good. It is practice, of course. But, like, what's going to give you that oomph? Like, for me, I like to be like, oh, I have to do this. This is important. If I haven't played a show in a while, I reach out to people that do shows. And I'm like, hey, I'd be willing to play. And that kicks my ass into gear to practice, and write stuff for performing live. If I was going to drive live visuals, would you send note number CC values from the OT or just send clock? I would send note value, or I would use a device that uses envelope followers. That's the most simplest and effective way to do live visuals with your music. Just figured out that you can play slices via MIDI since update 1.4. Yes, you can. And that's a reason why I need to use Orca with my Octatrack, because I haven't done that yet. And I know it will be really cool. That's what a good comedian would say. I'm starting to make content as a hobby, and you're making me want to push to be more honest and not pre-record. I like the live playing aspect you bring using these machines. When I'm doing a tutorial, I'm pre-recorded. That's for sure. Most of those tutorials aren't, they take a long time to shoot, even if they're short. But when it comes to making content for YouTube, for me, it's about, like, I make content for a living, because I do this for a synthesizer shop as a job. And so I'm recording other people as well, but I'm always editing video, and it's very time consuming if you want it to be good. So when I do my stuff, I want it to be fun. And that's what this is about. This is about having fun. Live performance is super fun to me. So I'm trying to make these videos or these songs that are really fun to watch. I think that the mixture of music and video is the mainstream media nowadays. People watch music a lot, maybe more than they listen. I'm not sure. Do you own MFB machines? Great question. I really would like to. No, I don't. I would love some MFB stuff. Their stuff's rad. iConnect MIDI 4 is genius. You know what I will tell you? Hold on. Why am I? There we go. What I want to tell you about how genius something is I'm Conductive Labs has something you've seen in the news or whatever, the music news, the gear news. Their MIDI device I've been testing, and it is off the chain. It's going to be, for people who have a lot of MIDI stuff and like to do a lot of routing, it's going to be what you want. Really cool. To see you live loop your modular on the OT. I hear people talk about it in forums, but I haven't seen anyone do it before. I've been thinking about adding OT to my... It's literally the same thing. So I have a couple, to address you, Nicholas. I have a couple of videos on on Noodler is cool on YouTube, and where I'm doing that, and I'm using either CVOCD to send start and stop to my sequencer and my modular, and hopefully there's not a delay if you're lucky. Or I'll use the Nerd sequencer, and it has a MIDI input, and it's solid. I mean, it's super solid. So if you hit start on the Octatrack, it's playing. Everything plays in sync. It's perfect, because everything needs to be super in sync to use it with your Octatrack. And I have my Octatrack be my master clock. And I also design it so, like, my kick drum has its own input on the Octatrack. Or just like all my drums will have a stereo input, and all my melodic stuff will have its own stereo input, so that I can do cool stuff like sidechain pumping to my modular drums. So it sounds like a nice professional mix, basically, or the effects do at least. How do I go about using this machine for more ambient music? I get about having fun. I'm 20-year drummer turned synth enthusiast. So I'm pretty green. To make more ambient music. Well, this thing excels at ambient music. The Octatrack does. I mean, so does the digital. All three of these do ambient music just great. I think if you just got to study how to make ambient music, it'll be no problem for you. The Octatrack has some really cool effects, some nice time stretching stuff it can do that's really lends itself to making warbly tones, that like jogging house vibe. Yes, the MRCC. I just couldn't remember if I can talk about it or not. I use a Bohm box and am able to connect all my USB MIDI hardware over Ethernet. Yeah, that's sick, man. How is the comb filter? Comb filter's cool. I don't use it that much. The comb filter works better for specific songs. Like, you may have seen Messy Desk Dan's comb filter video. The way he used it was those scenes were locked to different notes because the comb filter works by notes, right? So you have to use the comb filter based on the melodic content that's coming into it. The way I'm using the Octatrack as a performance mixer, using the comb filter on melodic content is going to sound out of key unless I'm always playing in the same key. So the comb filter doesn't lend itself to this setup particularly. It lends itself to everything else in the Octatrack except for using external devices that are changing songs and not the Octatrack with it, if that answers your question. Yeah, that's what we're all. There's tons of ambient performances. Yeah, there's a lot of ambient stuff going on. Does OT do delay, reverb per note, or trig? Thanks for answering the comb filter question. Does OT do delay? Yes, it does. Yes, it does those. Those are the Octatrack's effects are insert effects. These are send effects on these devices. So the effects are global. You just send them per step or send them per track. On an Octatrack, you can send them per track or you can send them per step to their own effects, which gives you a lot of power. It's very powerful. Though I do prefer the reverb in these devices over dark reverb. Dark reverb is great. Don't get me wrong. I like that sound a little better. Yeah, you should add an OT. No doubt. It's supposed to start like yeah. So I could record this. Let's go into my freeze delay here. Sound kind of insane. That's okay. So I like using the low pass on just the drums, especially when this is doing bass and melodic content. It's really fun to have a scene set up that filters this separately from this one, because this stuff's really like able to shine and you're able to hear these melodic elements a lot better because they're very intentional. They're panned on the left side on purpose, and I want you to be paying attention to the stereo-ness. I keep using that term. What I think is really important when you're mixing on these devices is you really have to you have to think about your panning. Think about it all the time. You don't want to have everything centered all the time on these devices. You just don't. It's going to sound muddy. It's going to sound bad. So use your panning, use your volumes, use your compressor. If you use those things, not necessarily in the Octatrack, you don't always want to use the compressor on the master there, but on your Digitac, it's going to sound really good. But on the Octatrack, Digitone, all that stuff, you have to use your panning and your volumes all the time. Pay attention to them. Don't just use default velocities. It's not going to sound good. Those sounds are going to sound crazy. They're going to layer on top of each other and create like really resonant caps, and it's going to be bad. So think about that. Yeah, that's the catch. Lots of performances for ambient, not many tutorials. Unfortunately, I mean, yeah, their tutorials on ambient is a good idea. I guess whenever I've made ambient music, it's typically been on modular or using Orca. Ableton template setup. I play one pattern but can't seem to mix two patterns seamlessly. Any advice on mixing patterns together? Yes. Here's the easiest way to do it. Let's make some music real fast. What's it? 9 o'clock? All right, we'll go to pattern 15. This is now on pattern 15 as well. We got nothing here. We got the default kit. Being low passed. We'll just do something really fast, like just some techno kind of thing. Just change the tempo. Whoops. Let's bring it to like there. If we're gonna do bass line, I'm gonna use my little sawtooth thing. Let's use the new step record and do some notes. We'll just do the black notes to make this fast. And we'll change it to per track, 64 steps. And we'll make this be like an odd amount. Let's do like 11. Okay, here's what we got so far. Just let the filter breathe on a couple of these steps. Maybe even put the portamento on there. Let the reverb breathe right there a little bit. Oops. When I'm making these kind of bass lines, I like to find a note that stands out. Maybe I should have used this one for that. And then give it like a nice long reverb tail. Let's make the reverb better. And I'll make those reverb tails on those like one notes, and they'll kind of like, they'll hang out over the rest of your bass line, and that will kind of act like a pedal tone on a synthesizer or on a piano, right? Where a pedal tone kind of connects like two chords. Whoa. All right, well, I'm not going to play with those volumes right now. That was the Prophet 5 jumping in there. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in just some hi-hats. Right now we're just using the most basic stuff, right? I'm going to lower the decay on these. Actually, what would be better is actually to use this hi-hat. So I'll hold track and hit copy, and I'll go over here and bring in the open hat that they have by default, and turn it into a hi-hat. This way, when I'm performing, I can open the hats. I can take the kick out. Hat opens. There we go. Can't do that with a tiny attack or a tiny decay. In the sample, you can with the envelope. So we have this kind of analog sounding bass line, right? So let's just go. Let's just grab a sound. And I'm going to pan these sounds. I'm actually going to pan each one of those steps. So let's get a snare going. just basic stuff. I'm actually gonna, so I'm using all the default sounds on the Digideck because I am trying to do this quickly. Overdrive, bring the volume back down, maybe get that filter, high pass. And now change this envelope. I like that better. And I can take these right here and put the fill, change them to the fill condition, so I can create some snare rolls. I'll just copy these, paste, and then copy, paste, 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 paste. Maybe on the very last one, I'll drench it in a bunch of reverb, give it a little delay. Maybe it needs a lot of reverb. There we go. Now it kind of blows up. So for this one, I would probably go into my second filter. Make sure I have that low end taken out. So that because I'm doing the mixing on the machine, so this is a good thing to pay attention to. The bass line, I could take the high end away if I needed to. I think that's about as much as I'd be willing to let go of. Maybe I'll go over to track 8 and we'll look for like a vocal sample. I know I have a bunch because
find something you really like, something you realize, something you.
That's kind of a cool one. Let's see. All right. Oops. Put that down. Let's put a whole bunch of them down. Now we have something, whatever, new. YouTube Gold tutorial. We could play with this again. Yeah, I like that. Now let's pan this stuff. Let's start all the way to the left side and work our way over to this side. Pan this one on mostly, a little bit less, 30, 28, 18, and there we go, and we'll start going the other way. Now it runs around her head. Everything sounds better than that. Come on. There we go. What the hell? I mean, that's still better to me. So it's like another thing for people that I think should practice is do some live recording. You know, you can always save it in a temporary state, but then do some live recording and try and play with the rhythm. That sounds a little bit more live. Yeah, function save project. Reverb per trig is so useful on the TT. Yeah, for real. So let's go into our LFOs, turn it into like a limiter. Turn the mix all the way up, bring the sidechain in, bring the ratio up, that down. We just want to barely see it, you know, just kind of pushing the top end down a little bit. But then you have to go in and kind of adjust your hats now because they're louder than they were. But damn, it sounds better when you turn the compressor on. Make sure that kick cuts through. Oh, let's see how the sidechain pumping sounds on this sucker. Sounds cool in there. So maybe we'll put down a melodic element here. Let's see, what do we have? Juno bass. Okay, sure. Yeah, but let's just use a single like a waveform. Turn the ping pong delay on. A little more feedback. this one a little longer. Let's go into this. Let's use this probability thing here and turn this down. Let's turn it way down, and then we can turn up like the delay. Yes, this is Elektron gear. No, I'm not, to answer the question that Grant had, how do you organize your kits? What makes the cut for the Digi with the limited storage? Well, I reuse a lot of my sounds because they're my sounds. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the drums and stuff, well, I'll use a lot in, I won't use them in the same, like I won't go from pattern 1 to pattern 2 or song 1 to song 2 or whatever it is, using the same drum kit. Maybe they'll have the same like snare, but a variation of that snare, somehow edited so it doesn't sound exactly the same. But a lot of those sounds I reuse because I love them. They're my favorite sounds. And I made them, or I sampled them on another device and brought it into the Digitac. So that's how it makes the cut. Otherwise, the Digitac it plays drums, it plays melodic content. A lot of times it's single cycle waveforms, or it's one shots from like a Prophet 5 or any other synthesizer. And then I'm putting those in here, and I'm able to reuse those in projects all the time. I need a really good chord stab, like pitch it down. It sounds great on the Digitac. If I want to have it be a pad, I reverse it and do some cool stuff with that. So I've had it for years, and I'm not anywhere near running out of storage on it. So I think when I run out of storage on the Digitac, I'm just going to buy another one. That's probably how I'll deal with that. But I don't think it's going to happen for a really long time. Sounded good. Oh, thanks, Michael. I hope I get to meet up with you very soon. Hope you get your Octatrack back. Oh, cool. I'm glad you feel like you got better watching this. I hope you guys were able to hear me well. I know you can't see my face well. I like take pride in how nice I get my camera to look, and then I turn on the webcam and it's like, you don't care. But I do. I do care about everyone. Yeah, let's keep playing with this for a minute. I think I've been doing this for a couple hours, so I'm probably gonna stop here in a sec. So like we got our little. Let's perform it. We have enough elements here that we could perform this. Or let's put in some weird percussion stuff. We're gonna perform our song that we made together, everybody. So we're gonna go into pattern mute mode. This is the purple mutes. If you're using green mutes, I don't understand you. I don't mean that in a mean way. I just don't understand why you wouldn't use pattern mutes because they're so powerful. So I'm always using pattern mutes. I know we have content on 8, 7, 6, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of these. Well, we'll get rid of them all, other than our bass line. Here we go. Here we go. We're gonna perform it now. Whoa, you heard wait a second. Playground of Sound? You heard wrong, dude. What? No, this is the Elektron gear is the pinnacle of dope groove boxes and really well made gear. These are solid. They're metal, dude. These are metal chassis with wonderfully awesome endless encoders, push encoders, and they're fantastic. Everything on the buttons, everything about them is great. And Roland is awesome too, but Roland's devices are plastic. So if you're going to talk about the difference between like build quality, these are number one. There isn't anybody above them. I think the Tempest rivaled it in its heyday. But right now, there's just not anything that I think really compares. Like the OP1's got a great build quality. That's another one of those devices that's just like, yeah, it's nice. These are nice. They're nice like that. They're nice like other synthesizers that you buy that you cherish. Anyway, let's go back to this. Let's perform our songs. I'll record a master version of this. We can see it here. And I'll even take the kick out at the end. And we'll go back over to it. So now I have that little kick out at the end taken out already in my recorded version. So I can use that as a, you know, your air is taken away from you for a second. And it's like, you get to breathe again. So that's the idea behind that. And I'll add another element here. I'll add this melodic element and we'll bring in these little hats. So when I go over, we're going to get to this new part of the song. And so we can do this too. We can do another recording again, and let's do some stuff like... Yeah, this actually turned out a lot better than I imagined it. I wrote anything for the last track, so at the moment this is where the song would end. This is as far as I wrote to, but you could make this last for a while. Do another master recording, kind of play with these effects. We've gone backwards, but I mean, it worked. Just don't use all your tricks at once, you know? You run out of tricks and then what? Okay. Well, I'm super surprised at how many people hung out for this, and really grateful that everybody is kicking it with me on a Wednesday night. For me, for us at Washington, it's Wednesday. You might be in Europe watching this. I don't know. But thanks again. If you're interested in, if you like this kind of stuff, if you like me just kind of freewheeling it here, even with like a dark face man here, please subscribe to my channel. Join the EZBOT Discord. There's links in all my video descriptions. If you want to support me as an artist or get your hands on this template, go ahead and join my Patreon at patreon.com/EZBOT. Fairly active on there. There is like about 150 posts of just nonsense and some cool stuff, and some tutorials and some templates and stuff. But everybody's really great. Some really great questions. Hugs from Argentina. Awesome. Don't change a thing. Okay. Hey, Discord link. Discord link's in the chat, y'all. Come on down. If you found yourself here and you want to hang out with a lot of people, there's a lot of people in the Discord, I'm not going to lie. But you don't have to talk. You can lurk. Lurkers are welcome. So come hang out. Come chat with me. I'm there as often as I possibly can pop in. And let's talk about making music. Let's talk about performance. Let's talk about Elektron. Let's talk about modular, and let's just kick it. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. Peace.